What exactly is schema therapy?
So, schema therapy helps people break out from long-standing patterns, things that we find ourselves doing repeatedly, even if they don't serve us. Say, defectiveness and shame, wherein a person feels like they're not good enough. Or there could be a schema around abandonment, where they are constantly worried or they believe that people will leave them. And those are kind of filters that end up coloring our perception of the world. They affect how we see ourselves and our relationships, and they affect what we expect from our lives. These schemas, these ways of thinking, these ways of perceiving our world are formed generally by experiences earlier in life. And these tend to become stuck as programs in our systems that we continue acting out of, even in adulthood, even if they're not really working for us.
So, what are the most common schemas that you see in high achievers?
So, in high achievers, I think the most common one is unrelenting standards. Unrelenting standards is a schema where we have high standards, we have high expectations, most often from ourselves, where we are hard on ourselves, where we expect more and more and more. And no matter what we do, it doesn't seem to be enough because we need to be doing even more. And that creates this constant pressure.
And how do you know if what's the difference between a healthy drive that gets you ahead and if it's a problem?
I think the difference is internally how it makes you feel, because how much of that drive is inspiration and energy and, something you look forward to versus, this fear, this stress, this pressure that, oh my God, if I don't do this, something bad will happen. Or if I don't do this, I will feel like a failure, or I will feel embarrassed or guilty or ashamed. So if we are able to be kind and compassionate while holding on to that drive, that ambition, that would show that it's the healthier aspect versus if we're just going, but no matter how much we achieve, no matter what we do, we can't appreciate that. We can't enjoy that. We can't take a moment to celebrate our victories.
So, what causes this, Mahima?
For unrelenting standards, it is often caused when, while growing up, love, approval, safety, all those things are tied to performance or achievement. That if you're a good girl, then you will then your mother will be proud of you. Or if you win that sports trophy, then your dad will spend more time with you. So when we notice that our performance, our achievements, our successes, they are needed for us to be of value to other people, for us to be worthy of love, for us to deserve attention, to deserve connection, that's often what will lead to unrelenting standards.
Self-sacrifice is another common theme, isn't it? They feel like they have to look after everyone else. Tell us about that one.
Self-sacrifice, as you said, is putting other people's needs over your own, feeling like what they want, what they wish, what they need has to be more important than yours. And if you're not doing that, it makes you a bad person, right? So it makes you feel guilty, or sometimes it also leads to fears that people will then abandon you or leave you because it makes you selfish. And if you're not constantly putting them first, then why would they want you there in the first place? And there are lots of people who can't imagine putting their own needs first because it makes them a bad person. It makes them a guilty person. So, yeah, that's another thing that really comes in the way of putting up healthy boundaries. Because with boundaries comes the fear of the consequences, and the consequences are often, I just won't be wanted. I won't be liked. I won't be needed. I'll be abandoned or rejected. A lot of times they don't even recognize that they're not doing anything for themselves and they're just getting depleted. So they end up in the therapy room being burnt out, having anxiety, having health conditions, and not knowing where things went wrong because they're being good people and doing the right things.
What about that person who finds themselves in the same relationship again and again?
These patterns begin from our primary attachments, which are with our parents or our primary caregivers. So many times what we see is that the patterns that we saw there get unconsciously repeated in our adult relationships. Even if consciously we thought that I'm never going to do that. I will never be my father, or I will never allow myself to be in a relationship like this. but you end up doing that.
And understanding your wounded inner child is crucial to this approach, isn't it?
Absolutely. So schema therapy is also something that works with parts. So one important part of ourselves that we often struggle with is the inner critic. That's actually where most of our stress, our pain, our misery comes from. It's about the inner dialogue. It's about what we are telling ourselves. It's that little voice inside our heads, which is telling us, oh, you're not good enough, or oh, people will never love you, or you will never be as successful, and whatever that is. That's where the pain is. And the part of us which actually experiences all this, that's the inner child. That's the core emotional part. That's the part of us that we have to learn to take care of better. And in schema therapy, we learn how to take care of that part of ourselves. We learn how to be good parents to our own inner children and get our psychological needs met in healthy ways.
So before we wrap this up, Mahima, what would your final words of advice be for anyone who's been struggling with the same patterns again and again?
It's not your fault. Those patterns, came into place because at a time they made sense. But you know what? Times have changed. And it's time that these patterns get updated too. And you don't have to do it all alone. If you could have, you would have.
Love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Lisa. This was lovely.
That was Mahima Didwania. She is a clinical psychologist and schema therapist, and she works at the other clinic in Singapore. If you want to reach out to her, her link and contact information will be in the bio below.